Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's going on, microphone? Hey, Ma. Welcome, you guys, to a Tuesday edition of the Watch Party here. Let's see if this comes through this time. Hey, fingers effing crossed, right? Yesterday was a disaster. So, before I let you guys really know what's happening, I'm going to monitor the situation. Let's see if this starts. There it is. Look at that. I can see that we started. You guys are slightly behind what I'm seeing. So welcome. Hi, how you doing? Hope you guys are good. Was it like a 3-day weekend here or something? Because I didn't see you guys show up yesterday. Where were you guys? Because I was here. Where were you on the best damn day of the week on a Monday to start the whole week off? Things are supposed to be extravagant. Things are supposed to be exquisite. You're supposed to be in your best state of mind as your week gets started on a Monday, the best damn day of the week. And it wasn't. It kind of sucked. I got to be honest. The frustration levels I had yesterday for the fact that we couldn't stream, even though I was talking for a solid 5 minutes before my dumbass looked up and saw that nothing was happening here, was frustrating to say the least. But I hope you guys still also showed up over on the page and saw that I did throw something up because I think many of you guys transfer over and watch the damage report after this hour-long stream. I was there, I guess the folks that are backing up John have extra equipment that I just don't have. So I did at least get to have an hours long worth of yelling and ranting and raving with John, despite me not doing this stream yesterday. So good to see you guys. It is working. Hey, am I right? Let me double check again because I don't trust this shit. Yes, I'm a little early today, Mara Felson, because I have to make sure that this is working. All of the tech people, all of the support people that I sent angry emails to yesterday, all of them, they told me everything is fine now. So we'll see. Uh, and everyone is, and oh, May money. What's going on, May? Hey, May, listen, I don't want you to think that I don't see you reaching out and talking about the things that you want to do. I promise I'm going to get on board as soon as I get myself together. I promise. I feel like you feel like I've been like, tossing your messages to the side. I know what you guys are doing. I promise I'm gonna be on board at some point in my life when I get my life together. So don't take that the wrong way. So just to get things started, as you guys file in, it is now finally noon on the East. There's tons of things to talk about. There was a couple things that I wanted to talk about yesterday that I can't talk about now today because it's a little bit behind. Maybe enough discussions have been had, but there are some new things. I don't know. Maybe I'll go over a little bit. Who knows? It might be happening. Thank you, May. I want to make sure you saw my message, my verbal message there to you. But it is Halloween season. Things are getting a little brisk. People are getting a little bit crazier. Who knows? Masks may be begun to be taken off. But I want to notice something and point out to you guys something that I've been noticing. I feel like this administration is beginning to get a little shaky. I mean, they've always been shaky because they're a bunch of fascists. But the thing is, their plans have been getting implemented without too much pushback, without too much disruption. And it's frustrating. It's why, so many of us that see the clear reality of what's happening get so angry at times. And I got to the point immediately after this election was done at the end of last year where I just dismissed people that still don't see that reality. No need in engaging with them further, trying to convince them. But you know what? I think a good approach here is noticing where the cracks are being had, exploit those, and highlight them. Because one of the main, strategies of this administration is hurry up. One disaster to the next, to the next, to the next. They'll forget about the last three because we've got a new disaster on a new day. Let's exploit those disasters. Specifically, after that No King's Day protest over the weekend, the cracks are showing. They're not feeling very good about it, as much as they want to continue to dismiss and call that many Americans terrorists and anti-American haters and all that stuff. It actually makes them look worse. That's them flailing. That's their frustration. And that's when more violence may be coming into the picture. But with all the non-seasoned idiots that are in this administration, one specifically I'm going to start with here is Lindsay Halligan. She was that former beauty queen pageant winner that was appointed to the Eastern District in Virginia to then take on all of Donald Trump's cases of political retribution, those stupid cases that mean absolutely nothing. Well, she's coming apart at the seams too. I'm not sure if you guys heard about this, but I'm definitely going to tell you about it. This was an interview that was had between a reporter. Her name is Anna Bauer, and she's a senior editor over at Lawfare. She had an exchange with Lindsay Halligan, and it's been exposed. This is her talking on CNN about it. Just make sure everything works today. Is everything gonna work today? Oh, good.
About that subject matter, I did find it really strange, and especially considering we didn't have a pre-existing reporter-source relationship. These were text messages with Lindsay Halligan, and right before we were about to publish, she also additionally reached out to me again, and as you mentioned, claimed that our conversation was off the record. Caitlin, I would encourage people to read the text messages that we published, and they can decide for themselves. But Lindsay Halligan never once suggested that we were off the record. She had reached out to me. As well as I do, Caitlin, in dealing with speaking to sources, that the way that it works is there's an agreement, there's a conversation that is had about it. And I never agreed to speak off the record. She never suggested it. I would have been happy to speak with her off the record had she suggested it, but she did not do that here. So I was very surprised when she, suddenly suggested that things were off the record when they in fact were not.
Yeah, generally that's something you agree to before the, proposed conversation takes place.
There goes Lindsay Halligan's conversation with that reporter, Anna Bauer, who was talking on CNN about it. A lot of off the record, on the record conversations because, Lindsay Halligan is a rookie and has no idea what she's doing. Apparently, not only under her lawfare cases, but also apparently when it comes to talking to reporters. Before I let Anna Bauer continue on with that conversation that she revealed, which I'm also going to show you guys, let me at least give you guys an update on what it is that's happening in case you hadn't heard how devastatingly stupid Lindsay Halligan is. Okay, so this Trump-appointed prosecutor, obviously Lindsay Halligan, tried to claim that a series of messages to a reporter criticizing her coverage had been, quote, off the record, but it was late. Lindsay Halligan, a former insurance lawyer who Trump appointed as the U.S. attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia in September, had reached out to Lawfare senior editor Anna Bauer earlier in the month, and she wasn't happy about what it is that she was reaching out to her about. Again, I'm going to get to that. That's the best part about this whole thing. But this is what she was upset about. The topic was Bauer's coverage. Actually, more specifically, her ex-posts about what the New York Times had already reported about Halligan's prosecution of Attorney General Letitia James, who, of course, is one of Trump's perceived political enemies. This is the ex-post in question that Lindsay Halligan was so upset about in reaching out to Anna Bauer. This is Anna Bauer's post from the 11th of October. That's how long ago this happened, maybe a few weeks ago. So this is what Anna Bauer posted. She said, New York Times reports that Letitia James's great niece lives in the home that's the subject of this indictment that Donald Trump is trying to exploit. The niece reportedly testified before a different grand jury, telling them that she had lived there for many years without paying rent. James visits there regularly. So in case you guys know what this whole thing's about, they're saying that Letitia James apparently in these documents from these two different residences signed each of them as a primary residence, which would of course give some kind of tax breaks because of primary residence versus like a secondary or vacation residence. This is the basis for these prosecutions, just about everything that Donald Trump is trying to pull on folks because he can't find anything on anyone. So this is the one he's trying to pull on Letitia James. And the basis behind this New York Times report is talking about how they said she was using it as a primary residence, even though she was renting it out. In their reporting, apparently her family member lives there rent free, which is what the New York Times reported, that then Anna Bauer of Lawfare quoted and showed screen grabs of and just kind of summarized what that report was. Don't forget that part. This is not Anna Bauer and her original reporting. This is her talking about original reporting from the New York Times. So this is more of Bauer talking about what is it then happened after that.
You mentioned that you reached out to the Justice Department. They accused you of trying to tattletale on Lindsay Halligan tonight. I want to read their statement in full because they said, quote, "You clearly didn't get the response you wanted, which was information handed over to you without having to dig into the facts of the case to craft a truthful story. So you thought you'd tattletale to main justice. Lindsay Halligan was attempting to point you to facts, not gossip. But when clarifying that she would adhere to the rules of the law and not disclose grand jury information, You threatened to leak an entire conversation. Good luck ever getting anyone to talk to you when you publish their text. I mean, I read it. I don't think you're threatening to leak it. I just think, you know, it, to your point, it wasn't on off the record conversation.
No, it wasn't. And look, I reached out. I didn't threaten anything. I reached out for comment because I'm a journalist who is publishing a story.
And she wasn't even doing that as far as being the primary person to reach out. Okay, so this conversation again is between Anna Bauer, that woman you saw with the red hair on the right hand side, talking to Caitlin Collins, and then also Lindsay Halligan. Last part about this, but really fast, that message there from the Department of Justice. The Department of Justice said that she's a tattletale. Look at these children. This is what I'm talking about. These are the times we need to exploit and show and highlight just how childlike these folks are. Don't keep arguing with children. Just be like, okay, listen, and pat them on their heads and say, listen, youngster, you have no idea what you're doing. What I need you to do is understand that the Justice Department does need to be coming out talking about how a reporter is tattletaling on someone who reached out to them to complain about a effing tweet, bro. So because she's forced to, I guess. Here's the last aspect of this little interview back and forth where this reporter here, Anna Bauer, talked about why it is that she even posted all of these messages. And I think it makes sense.
And I want to underscore here that why we thought that this was a newsworthy story and why there's great public interest in this is, you know, I'm a legal reporter. I cover the Justice Department. So does everyone in our organization. You know, we're familiar with how things work in terms of reporter and U.S. attorney relationships and reporter and prosecutor relationships. When this exchange happened, it felt so out of the ordinary and so unusual that, you know, it felt like something that really should be published, because here you have someone who is already so highly scrutinized under such pressure with these very high profile prosecutions, and already knows that, you know, anything that she does is going to be picked apart by defense counsel, even the most minor misstep. And yet here she is on the record messaging with a reporter about an ongoing prosecution, which just does not really happen that much in terms of communications between reporters and prosecutors. And so we found it to be really remarkable. And over the past few days, we spoke to reporters who cover legal affairs. We spoke to former prosecutors. They have never quite seen an exchange like this, Caitlin. And so I think that, you know, it felt like something that we needed to publish, and we did. And there was nothing in terms of leaking anything. It was Lindsay Halligan who approached me. So you know, I think that would be my response to that.
She had to explain why it's newsworthy that this woman, who's never tried or done anything, prosecuted a case in her life, decided to reach out to her with these series of messages. Again, Lindsay Halligan started this whole thing over that tweet. Here it is. These are the messages that reporter Bauer then released. It says, Anna, Lindsay Halligan here. You're reporting things that are simply not true. Thought you should have a heads up. Okay, first of all, why? To continue on. That sounds like, you know, maybe a shush, shut up type of message. But this is the response. She says, hey, Lindsay, thanks for getting in touch. Accuracy is important to me, and I'd love to hear what you think I've got wrong so I can correct it if I made an error. But just to confirm this is really you, can never be too careful about this kind of thing. Can you tell me where we first met? And then so she made a confirmation where they met so they can really know who she's talking to, because she probably thought, are you kidding me? Lindsay effing Halligan's texting me about a tweet. So this is what Halligan went on to say. Honestly, so much, I can't tell you everything, but your reporting in particular is just way off. I had to let you know. It's clear you don't have sources that are accurately telling you what you're writing. Seems clear to me that you just jump to your biased conclusions based off what you read instead of truly looking into the evidence. I'll remind you for the third time. Lindsay Halligan is complaining to Anna Bauer about a tweet, not her own reporting, a tweet that summarized the New York Times reporting about what it is that was going on with this case that Lindsay Halligan has no effing clue what she's doing. Continuing on. So Bauer responds, are you saying that something I said in this post is inaccurate? And if so, what? Sorry, just trying to figure out what exactly we're talking about here. The response, you're assuming exculpatory evidence without knowing what you're talking about. It's just bizarre to me. If you have any questions before you report, feel free to reach out to me. But jumping to conclusions does your credibility no good. The response from Bauer, I think I made it clear that my post was based on the New York Times report, not my own reporting. Did they get something wrong? For normal people at this point, Lindsay Halligan, if you're in her position, you'd be like, oh, actually, my bad. I was talking about the New York Times reporting, not yours. I'm over here making a fool of myself on this text exchange back and forth with you, complaining about you tweeting about a story. Here's more. She went on for a long time. Back to Halligan. She says, yes, they did, but you went with it without even fact checking anything. And they are disclosing grand jury information, which is also not a full representation of what happened. I guess I expect them to do that, but I was surprised by you running with it. She says, I'm happy to retract or correct anything that's untrue, but I can't do that if I don't know what the supposed error is. Can you be more specific, Lindsay? She responds, you should read the indictment. It says she received thousands of dollars in rent. I can't tell you the grand jury stuff. Hey, bro, if you can't tell her the grand jury stuff, stop bringing up the grand jury things. Stop bringing up how she should have known better and how she should have looked into sources. Because now what Anna Bauer is realizing is maybe you can tell me some information. She went into reporter mode like this has become my story now. But again, Halligan's too stupid to realize that. Here's what Bauer said in response. She said, I read the New York Times report as saying that Nakia testified that she lived in the house for years without paying rent. Though the indictment says there were thousands of dollars paid at one point, I don't see that as inconsistent with her testimony as reported by the New York Times. Letitia James's ethics disclosures report between $1,000 to $5,000 in rent back in 2020. But after that, she didn't disclose additional rental income. I'm still not sure I understand what's incorrect about the New York Times account or my summary of it. There's a few more slides because it gets a little bit more aggressive and much worse for Lindsay Halligan. Halligan responds, Anna, you're biased. That's when she got personal. This is the unhinged unraveling of this administration fully coming into play. She says, you're biased. Your reporting isn't accurate. I'm the one handling the case, and I'm telling you that. If you want to twist and torture the facts to fit your narrative, there's nothing I can do. Waste to even give you a heads up. Bauer responds, you've approached me in saying that I've compounded or repeated something inaccurate in the New York Times account of Nakia's testimony. I'm happy to correct it, but I can't do so without a sense of what I'm supposedly got wrong. I'm sorry. Continue to do what you have been, and you'll be completely discredited when the evidence comes out. Okay, thank you. I'd love to talk further when you're more at liberty to be specific. The degree to which Bauer has given her all these outs, these off ramps to this conversation that's incredibly embarrassing for her is off the charts. But for some reason, Halligan has this false sense of confidence in this conversation that she's had. So then a few hours passed, or however much time passed. And Bauer came back and said, well, I might as well get some more information from you. So she asked her this. She goes, I've been thinking about what you said, and I appreciate you reaching out. At the time, I was pretty focused on what I might have gotten wrong in that tweet. But I'm curious for your thoughts more broadly. What are you most frustrated? What are you most frustrated that reporters aren't focusing on or writing about with respect to this case? No frustration generally with reporters. You're the only reporter that I reached out to. Well, bro, maybe you should have reached out to the New York Times reporter that she was simply reposting about. She says, got it. Thanks. Again, I really do appreciate you reaching out. I have a bunch of questions about some of the reporting all around on this, and I'm sure I will in the future. So I'd love to stay in touch if you're open to it. Then she asked more details. Halligan says, you don't report fairly. And with a bunch of spaces for some reason, I can't discuss any potential charges with reporters. If evidence arises that warrants further charges, I'll look into it. So I think at this point, Lindsay Halligan looked up and said, well, I said a lot of things there. It's been like tons of messages. I cut out a lot of the messages. I know I read through a lot already, but I cut out so many other these messages that they had back and forth that was talking about how mad she is and how maybe she shouldn't do that. And I'm gonna give you this kind of information, but I can't talk about the grand jury, but then that grand jury, but maybe you should talk to someone. I can't give you more information. Well, stop talking, bro. Stop talking. Here's the last exchange that Anna Barr was talking about with CNN. Halligan says, by the way, everything I ever sent you is off record. You're not a journalist, so it's weird saying that, but just letting you know. She says, I'm sorry, but that's not how this works. You don't get to say that in retrospect. Yes, I do, off record. I'm really sorry, is what Bauer responds. I would have been happy to speak with you on and off the record, on an off the record basis, had you asked, but you didn't ask, and I still haven't agreed to speak on that basis. Do you have any further comment for the story? The last message from Halligan. It's obvious the whole conversation is off record. There's disappearing messages and it's on signal. What's your story? You never even told me about a story. She can't be this dumb. This woman who's talking about all the things that I just reached out to you and texted you about off of zero any kind of start from you, no primary messages from this reporter. She reached out to a reporter and started scolding her. And after she went through tons, 30, 40 messages to her, then says, by the way, everything that I've been yelling and complaining to you about that has turned into a story now is off the record. No, no, it's not. But because they're petulant children in this administration, and for some reason she's been told that she has, I guess, some kind of confidence in what it is that she's doing when she's doing everything incorrectly. She has the guts to then go up and start texting people and tell them it's on the record, off the record. And this stupid Department of Justice called that whole text exchange a tattletale because the people that are running this country are children. Let me give you a different example of how these children are running this country. That's the new attorney in the Eastern District of Virginia. This is Caroline Levitt, the White House press secretary. She posted this on X. She goes, for context, SV Date of the Huffington Post is not a journalist interested in the facts. He's a left-wing hack who has consistently attacked President Trump for years and constantly bombards my phone with Democrat talking points. She says, just take a look at his feed. It reads like an anti-Trump personal diary. Here's my full response to this, quote, inquiry. Activists who masquerade as real reporters do a disservice to the profession. So Caroline Levitt posted this. This is what she was showing for context. And this was her exchange with a reporter who asked her a very simple question. This is the question the reporter asked her. Is the president aware of the significance of Budapest? In 1994, Russia promised in Budapest not to invade Ukraine if it gave up the nuclear weapons it inherited when the Soviet Union dissolved. Does he not see why Ukraine might object to that site? Who suggested Budapest? Thanks. Caroline Levitt responded to that very simple, normal question about how Vladimir Putin is continuing to make Donald Trump look like an effing idiot. She said, your mom did. Reporter asked, is that funny to you? She says, it's funny to me that you actually consider yourself a journal. You are a far left hack who nobody takes seriously, including your own colleagues in the media. They just don't tell you that to your face. Stop texting me your disingenuous, biased, and bullshit question. Are we seeing a pattern? Lindsay Halligan went on a long, hours and hours long text thread back and forth with the reporter. Caroline Levitt is she's posting this thread between her and a reporter where her answer to a very simple, normal question that actually means a lot. And she probably went, ooh, that looks bad for us. Instead, she said, your mom did. And she posted it thinking that that was some kind of a own, when in reality, that's definitely not a flex, bro. You're posting while you're supposed to be the White House press secretary about a bad exchange you had where you refused to answer a very clear question. Matter of fact, it highlights the question as even being even more important to maybe people who didn't see it. because you're an idiot. The children are running this country. It's amazing. And she got high fives and congratulations from other folks who worked for like Ted Cruz and Stephen Chung. They're like, oh, owned her, got him. Oh, look at that. She said your mom did. And then I just went, your mom. I didn't even show you that. Stephen Chung responded on top of that and went, yeah, your mom. Oh my God. I remember the stupid 10, 11-year-old kids back in middle school used to say that type of stuff back in the 90s. It wasn't very effective then either. But now we got, I don't know how old Caroline Levitt is, grown ass people who work in this administration saying the same thing to reporters about a question that's very valid and actually is very bad for your administration to not consider the very thing he asked. What an idiot. So stop falling behind idiot children that are running this country because they're dangerous. I'm gonna show you why. But for you guys that just showed up now, I'm exposing how crazy this administration is, and also how we shouldn't take anything they say or do seriously, except for the fact that they are dangerous. Just don't take them seriously enough to listen to anything they say as having any kind of validity or reality. So speaking of reality, this was posted on the Department of Homeland Security's Twitter account, the official Homeland Security X account.
Blessed that these hoes on my dick because I'm fly like a jet. They gonna be surprised when they see I made this beat, baby Chief and Kanye West. As long as the hoe outside with the zoo shit never see home. 26.
Let's run that again. I want you to see it again.
Blessed that these hoes on my dick because I'm fly like a jet. They gonna be surprised when they see I made this beat, baby Chief and Kanye West. As long as the hoe outside with the zoo shit never see home. 26.
So that was a post from the Department of Homeland Security, where they apparently reposted a TikToker's video, and the caption over the top says, ICE, we're on the way. Word in the streets, cartels put a $50K bounty on y'all. And there's a bunch of black men putting on masks ready to go attack ICE. Hey, yo, let's set aside all the irony based on them talking about how afraid they are of that, even though they've got a bunch of white folks attacking people in the streets with masks on. But the Homeland Security posted that and said, FAFO, if you threaten or lay hands on our law enforcement officers, we will hunt you down and you will find out really quick. We'll see you cowards soon. So they're now on social media being keyboard warriors, talking about how they're coming after black folks that posted apparently something on TikTok about coming after ICE because the cartels are now in conjunction with us and they're going to pay us $50,000 so we can buy more guns and drugs and have sex because that's what black guys do, because this Department of Homeland Security is full of fucking racists. I saw this because Joy Reid was talking about it. I want to let her break it down a little bit differently.
Hey fam, so the Department of Homeland Security, Christine Ohm's outfit, is now weaponizing social media against the American people and putting Americans' lives at risk. The Department of Homeland Security ex-Twitter account posted this video purporting to show a group of young black men threatening ICE agents, saying there's a $50,000 bounty on your heads and, you know, we're coming for you. And then they make a threat back and say that if you threaten ICE agents, we're coming to get you. Well, it turns out the video is an AI fake. An astute user on X-Twitter noticed that the Homeland Security video, which is a TikTok video, they've actually changed the caption on the video. The original TikTok video has a completely different caption. It's not about ICE at all. It's about Iran. They even changed the music. That's how you know it was re-edited, because the musical track on the clip is different. The caption is completely different. And they've essentially used this young man's video in order to create a fake appearance, a fake threat against ICE from young black men. So they weaponized anti-blackness. They weaponized a lie that these federal agents are being threatened and that there's a bounty on their heads, which they've apparently made up. and they're using anti-Blackness in order to create this fake sense of threat. That is your government using your resources, your tax dollars, in order to weaponize American social media to get those Americans death threats, because that's what's happening to this young man.
That is exactly what's happened to this young man. So Joy Reid talked about the big crux in this whole thing. FAFO from the Department of Homeland Security towards these young black guys. So then once they then put that out, she continues to talk about the response from the guy that was the focus of that apparent AI video that DHS took and manipulated and used for their own purposes because, you know, they hate black folks too, in case you forgot. Here's more from Joy Reid talking about it, and she also shows what that user said in response.
Here's a little bit of his video in which he talks about the fact that since this video has gone viral, he's now getting death threats. Take a listen.
I get threats daily on IG and everywhere all over my social media all of a sudden due to an old video I posted months ago about Iran. Iran, that was not to be a threat. It was literally a joke, bro. Like, seriously, it's just content. Anyways, once I seen that video that was posted on my account, then I was like, what the fuck? Well, then I posted this like months ago, then I seen the caption, and then I was like, wait, I didn't do that. I still got the video saved on my draft months ago on TikTok, bro. I'm gonna pull it up right here. Now, here's the fucked up part. Federal government is involved with something that I didn't do.
So there was, he spoke for 3 minutes on his full video, but that was Joy Reid's part of it that she was showing folks. Now death threats have come his way. I'm just waiting for the next thing to drop, or for them maybe hoping that somebody starts getting hurt, or maybe people respond to these death threats. The targets of these death threats respond, and now we got more fighting in the streets, more folks that they can claim are anti-American. I can't believe they would do this. And by the way, really fast side note, apparently the original video that they took and manipulated for the purpose of scaring scary ass racists into thinking black folks are now coming for their lily-livered white ICE agents. Apparently it was this trend video talking about targeting Iran. I'm not sure if you guys saw many of those trends. I only saw 2 people do it, so I didn't know it was much of a trend. But this is one of the craziest parts, from my understanding at least. Maybe I'm wrong, but from my understanding of the 2 that I saw, it was from like June or so, whenever those Iran attacks were carried out by Trump to take out the nuclear facilities, which to this day we still don't know the effectiveness of it, because, you know, Pete Hegseth has gotten mad about it and made sure he cut out all journalists from even asking any questions. But there was response from folks that were doing the whole Iran responds to us, and man, we're going to respond back, and there's going to be a fight on our hands. That's when we were potentially worried about an escalation to an armed conflict. And many folks were online talking about some Iran, come get it. You see what we can do. You don't want to F with us. That was like a supportive video to the stupid shit that Donald Trump was doing, that he was covering up and acting like it was some super effective thing. They used a potentially supportive, trendy video about the attacks on the Iran nuclear facilities and turned it into this guy attacking ICE. Just think about that. Whether you support their bullshit or not, they will use you for the sake of a scarecrow to make sure that all of their minions are afraid of these guys because they look scary, right? They're black and they put a mask on their face. Last part from Joy Reid talking about how bad this really is, because this is what I was thinking, but sometimes she puts things a little better than me.
If your government can steal your content in order to weaponize a falsity, a lie against Americans, in order to get Americans' lives, in order to get Americans, death threats, threatening their lives, that's your government doing that to you. What else could they do using your social media in order to create fictions and lies that they could use against the American people? Wake up. This government is dangerous. This regime is incredibly, incredibly dangerous and malevolent, and they are weaponizing your government against you. Hopefully that young man is safe.
So not only that, we're paying for the fake AI videos to go up and put forward by the Department of Homeland Security to use their employees to then put these things up and start acting like they're attacking folks. And that's where we've come with AI. There's always been the discussions about how AI eventually is going to get good enough that people don't know one thing from the other. They don't know how to detect whether or not it's fake or not. And in many cases, I hadn't looked at much of this yet, but there's, of course, some folks who said they can tell. There was folks who asked and looked into certain kinds of cues into whether or not it was fake. I guess all that's up in the air because in response to this, I guess they saw Joy Reid's videos about it. And the Homeland Security responded yet again on X and said, "We have receipts." They're pushing back. This young man posted violent threats of murder against our law enforcement. He then deleted it when he was called out and attempted to deny all wrongdoing. "We have the receipts and the internet is forever." The willful ignorance and intentional blindness by leading Democrats to the massive increase in violent rhetoric against our agents due to their actions is both disgusting and disappointing. Violence against our agents and officers must stop. Pay attention. I was saying this the other day about Marjorie Taylor Greene. Pay attention to what they're saying and why they're saying it. They said they have the receipts on this guy. They're going to come after people who are now threatening to come after ICE agents for a $50,000 bounty that was put out on their heads by cartels. That other scary thing that you have to make sure you're always worried about. So instead of them continuing to talk about the guy that they have receipts on, they went on to talk about how leading Democrats have this massive increase in violent rhetoric to our agents, and also violence. All these agents must stop. This sounds like the whole purpose of this whole thing is to then go to more divisive ideas and tactics and language to talk about how Democrats have the violent rhetoric. Who said this guy's a Democrat? I didn't know that this guy was an elected official. Who knew that this guy even like votes? I don't even know if he's an adult, bro. But the guy put out a video and now somehow he's connected to leading Democrats. I'm not sure which leading Democrats he's in conjunction with. I didn't know that he's also on the House floor while we're in a government shutdown, but they linked it all together because what they want to do is cause people who are maybe beginning to waver on their bullshit to look up and go, don't forget, you're supposed to be afraid of black men. You're supposed to be afraid of anybody that talks about how ICE are actually the terrorists in this country. And then you're supposed to, then if you see any of these guys on the streets, you attack them. Because that's what this administration is all about. Division, violence, and absolutely extreme lies. So I'm sure there's plenty of people who believe the Department of Homeland Security has some kind of receipts on this. I remember they put it in capital letters, except after that, I haven't seen these receipts yet. I looked for it. I said, maybe the Department of Homeland Security is all over this. Maybe their entire bullshit story is right. I've yet to see the receipts. Usually, if you have receipts, you may pull it out because the whole purpose of receipts is say you're returning something to the store and they say, yo, you can't return this because I don't know if you really bought it. Here's my receipt. So after they have all these lies they put out on the internet, potential lies, and they're supposed to provide receipts, I'm looking for the receipts. I haven't seen any receipts yet. In fact, this is all that happened from another story. It says DHS did not edit, change, or use AI in any other form, any manner or form to alter this video. It was downloaded directly from this individual's account on Friday, October 17th, after it had already acquired over 40,000 likes and hundreds of comments urging individuals to target our ICE officers. The willful ignorance and intentional blindness by leading Democrats, and that's when they're talking about the rhetoric. Where are the receipts, bro? I'm waiting for the receipts. So like I've been saying for a while, until we see some receipts, because you guys keep saying you got them, and until we see some truth, because you keep saying you got that too, this administration starts with a lie, it continues with a lie, and then it goes forward with more lies. Everything that they say, the first thought you should have is this must be untrue until they prove otherwise. Because that's who they are. That not because I just decided to say that, because that's who they've proven to us to be countless times. Why should you believe them? And why shouldn't you believe that guy? Have you ever seen that guy before? Do you know him? So the people who don't believe him because why? Ask yourself that question, and why you should believe Kristi Noem instead, who's a fucking liar. Just want to point that out. Where are the receipts? Where are the receipts? They They don't expect people to ask those questions. So that's what I'm saying. Slow it down every time they say something and think about what they're saying and why they're saying it. Which leads me to the next liar, the next story here. Man, it's 11:40. I think I might have time. I may have time. Let's go. I got 2 more stories. I had so much. I'm sorry, I missed the best damn day of the week. I got a lot to say. So apologies. I'm definitely going to go over a little bit. But the last story is least fun. I want to give you guys that clue. It's after this one. More on Mike Johnson, though. Yesterday, I was over on TDR, and we talked a little bit about Mike Johnson trying to block more of Adelita Grijalva's her swearing into the House so that she won't sign on to this discharge petition for the Epstein files. He's been making his rounds. He also went on CNBC to talk about it and kind of repeat some of the same lies he keeps telling that he thinks are somehow going by, unless his only objective is to, please Donald Trump. This is him getting some pushback there as well, too. Not just on ABC, where we saw John Carl kick his ass around. But here he is on CNBC.
There was a special election that was held for Arizona more than 3 weeks ago now. The Democratic Congresswoman-elect won that special election, Grijalva. She's waiting to be seated. And now Arizona's Attorney General is threatening to sue you for taxation without representation if you don't seat her. I realize Congress is not in session, but it's been more than 3 weeks, and all the representatives in the House are being paid right now. Why can't you seat her?
Well, not all the members of the House are being paid. I think all the Republicans.
Well, some of them have chosen not to pay a paycheck. They are all under law allowed to receive a paycheck, but they are saying that this is a huge amount of politics. You're using this as leverage by not seating them. And Arizona is saying this is taxation without representation.
No. Yeah, I'm shocked that there's another Democrat politician from Arizona seeking publicity right now. Now the state AG's involved.
You haven't seated their full delegation.
She's going to sue me, I'm sure. No,
she's not going to sue you. The Attorney General of Arizona is going to sue you for their people not being able to be fully represented.
No, that's who I'm referring to. I know, and she wants publicity too, and it's all a farce. Let me tell you what's happening here. The Rep-elect Grijalva was elected after the House went out of session. So I have said this repeatedly. I'm delighted to administer the oath to her as soon as we get back to legislative session. The people who are preventing us from doing that, ironically, are the 2 Democrat senators from Arizona. If Gallegos and Kelly would vote to reopen the government, we'll get this thing done quickly. I'm following right now the Pelosi precedent. When my dear friend and colleague from Louisiana, Julia Letlow, in very similar circumstances, was elected to fill in a special election to fill the seat of her late husband who passed, died because of COVID. Nancy Pelosi took 25 days to administer the oath. Rep. Grijalva won an election to take her father's seat in Congress. It's an amazing thing, and we congratulate her for that. And I'm looking forward to administering the oath, but we have to get back to work. The lights have been turned out here. Chuck Schumer and the Democrats have shut down the government, and the first order of business is to make sure that American people, federal employees, law enforcement agents, Border Patrol agents, TSA, air traffic control get their paychecks so we can keep the government functioning, and then we'll get to the ceremonial duty of administering the oath. In the meantime, she can be working for her constituents. She has hired staff. I've noticed they keep doing stunt videos outside of her office, knocking on the door and pretending it's closed. It shouldn't be. She should be in there taking calls from her constituents and doing her job.
So Mike Johnson got caught in a few more lies. He's really smooth about moving on to the next one if somebody doesn't stop him. He doesn't hesitate. That's his one strength. So you have to stop him, like John Carl did when he made that same lie about the Pelosi precedent, which is odd. Why would you follow Nancy Pelosi's precedent? Why would you act like Nancy Pelosi? Because it was a lie. But the first lie that she caught him in was he talking about how people are getting paid. They're not getting paid. And she goes, well, that's the thing. People took that as an option to not get paid. Well, let me move on to that next lie then. But the other lie that she didn't catch him in was when he said she was elected after the House went out of session. Then he started talking about the Arizona senators that need to go ahead and reopen that government because things are it's out of my hands. It's out of my hands. It's totally out of my hands. Except I looked it up. I was like, you know what? I feel like she got elected before the government shutdown happened. Maybe there's some other processes that I missed, but I think she was certified with that win on September 23rd is what I looked up. The government shutdown officially went into effect on October 1st. And last I checked, September is before October. And so, as usual, as Mike Johnson did before the August recess, he sent everyone home early to make sure that they wouldn't have anything to do with signing this discharge petition or having anything else to do with exposing the Epstein files that Donald Trump doesn't want him to allow to be exposed. So he lied there too. But that's his whole plan. That's how they operate. I'm beginning to think and wonder, is Mike Johnson like in these Epstein files? Like he's really like destroying his entire career, which I don't know how good it was before, over trying to support Donald Trump and what it is that he's making sure that they cover up. But he did mention the the attorney general there, I believe, in Arizona. But he continued talking about more of what it is that was going on with this and his lies.
No,
continue
we
to
have
go
not
down.
heard back from him except for on your show and on a few other shows. What he gave you is about the 6th or 7th excuse for why he refuses to swear in Representative-elect Grijalva. And yeah, time is up. I gave him 2 days, and he continues to refuse to swear her in. And Arizona's 7th congressional district, 813,000 Arizonans are now being taxed without representation. That's unacceptable. The state of Arizona is being actively injured by his refusal to swear her in, and there are no legitimate reasons for doing it. He should walk over to her office right now, Jake, and swear her in.
Powerful words from the Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. That's who Mike Johnson was talking about, is just looking for this for publicity. But she said, damn it, you have until the end of the week, which was Friday, last I heard. And then after that, she's going to go ahead and draft some legislation to make sure that this happens. She said, you've got a deadline, bro. Here's her talking about that legislation she wants to draft up.
To take against the House Speaker. Isn't this up to his discretion?
No, I mean, the law is very clear that no Speaker of the House has the right to deny a state the seating of a member of Congress. No Speaker has the right to basically violate the Constitution. I will tell you, I have lawyers downstairs right now drafting the litigation. We are not messing around. And the people of the state of Arizona hired me to be their lawyer and hired me to protect them. Obviously, this is a little bit unprecedented. I mean, I don't know that we've seen anything like this before, where a speaker refused to swear in a member who was duly elected. Let's remember, Jake, she was elected with 70% of the vote. And this was about 3 weeks ago that special election happened. It's long past time for her to swear her in, and we're going to do everything we can, including going to court, to make sure that it happens. And quite frankly, I can't think of a single reason other than that she's not being sworn in, other than the fact that she is likely to be the final vote on the Epstein discharge petition. So whatever the reason is, it's got to end now. We have people in her district who are not getting services. We just had a flood down in southern Arizona. She's not able to help those folks. She's not able to do other constituent services like help people with their Social Security benefits or their veterans benefits. Time is up, Jake.
Time is up. Strong words there from the Attorney General there, Chris Mays, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays. So this is what's now happening. That was the end of the week. We're waiting for that that litigation to be drawn up and to be placed in Mike Johnson's face so that he could have an extra layer of something that he's ignoring or trying to avoid, all for the sake of Donald Trump and his cover-up of these files. This is where my frustration comes in. It's also where I think many actual progressive voices' frustration comes in with leadership in this party. It's Tuesday, and unless it's happening right now as we're doing this stream, we haven't seen that litigation be drafted yet. When she said time is up, it's all over for you, Mike. We're coming for you. At some point, you have to do it. She laid out a great case how people in the state need their representative. She laid out a great case. So why is it, as of yesterday, when the day that was going to get drawn up, This is what Attorney General Chris Mays posted on her X account.
The Arizona Attorney General is now getting involved on behalf of her constituents because she calls this a case of taxation without representation.
Arizona Attorney General says they are threatening legal action at this point if nothing is done.
Chris Mays, who's threatening to take legal action. Democratic Attorney General of Arizona is now threatening legal action against Mike Johnson.
This is what she said about it. We are keeping every option open to us, including litigation, to hold him accountable.
Now, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays is threatening legal action against the Speaker of the House. In a letter addressed to Speaker Johnson, Mays accuses him of violating the Constitution.
Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays is threatening a lawsuit against Speaker Johnson if Grijalva is not sworn into office immediately.
She has sent a letter to Mike Johnson demanding he swear Grijalva in. She said in a press release that she would take it to court if need be.
She says that it looks like she's going to have to take this issue to court and file a lawsuit.
The Arizona Attorney General is now threatening legal action against the Speaker for stalling.
An ultimatum saying if he doesn't commit to a date by tomorrow, she'll ask a judge to step in.
The Attorney General of Arizona is threatening to sue. They sent a letter to the Speaker just yesterday saying that the explanation as to why she hasn't been sworn in yet is, quote, ever-shifting, unsatisfactory, and sometimes absurd.
Time is up. I gave him 2 days, and he continues to refuse to swear her in. And Arizona's 7th Congressional District, 813,000 Arizonans are now being taxed without representation.
Jung 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 jung. Where's the litigation? I think it's day 4 when she said it's been 2 days. I saw a promotional video with exciting chimey music, like Inside Edition or something, and Chris Mays, she's threatening. I think there was like 8 to 10 different examples of reports and discussions and people talking about how she's threatening. And Mike Johnson's not threatening. When is it, bro? I keep looking for it. And I looked I was like, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm giving Chris Mays a hard time. Maybe this is way different and has so many layers that I just don't know about. I'm just me. I'm not an attorney general. But for some reason, she hasn't done it yet. Why hasn't she done it yet? This is kind of leadership. Again, speaking completely on my limited level of knowledge of how this can even come down. Maybe there's some other hurdle in the process that's keeping her from it. So I apologize if that's it, but I haven't seen it yet. That's all I'm saying is I haven't seen it yet. So from Punchbowl News, they point out that, of course, the deadline passed and Mays' office didn't have an update as of publication time, but we expect to see action this week in the form of a lawsuit. It's only Tuesday. Maybe this week in the form of a lawsuit. Here's more Democratic leadership. Quote, it's my expectation that if she is not sworn in today during the pro forma session today, which was last Friday, as the Arizona Attorney General has made clear, expect swift and decisive legal action. That's what Hakeem Jeffries said. That was on Friday, and that pro forma came and went. House Democrats tried to get recognized to raise the swearing in, but House Republicans once again didn't bite on it. So I'm waiting for Hakeem Jeffries. I'm waiting for Chris Mays. I'm waiting for all these folks to finally come through on these promises to go after Mike Johnson, who just now, beginning just on Sunday, finally got a little bit of pushback from someone like Jonathan Karl on ABC to be like, you're lying to us. When are you going to do it? This looks bad. Leland Vittert went after his ass a couple weeks ago and said, you have to know how this looks, Mike. But for some reason, these guys that are in power and have positions in the Democratic Party to do something, whether or not it's going to be super effective and it's going to get that done right away or not, you keep threatening and you keep not doing. I'm just trying to figure out when somebody's going to do something. Because every time these MAGA fascists want something done, they fucking do it. Donald Trump just tweeted about how he wants to literally remove to remove the one Republican that's starting this whole thing. I'm blanking on his name right now. That started the whole thing with the Epstein, with this particular discharge petition with the Epstein files. He wants to remove him. He's probably making more. He's probably sending out more texts that should accidentally go out as Truth Social posts, like he did to Pam Bondi about going after his political enemies, to say we got to find a way to get rid of his ass because they're getting way too close to all that nasty shit that I don't want coming out. I'm waiting for the action. In the meantime, Adelita Grijalva has to promote herself and put out videos of how she's locked out of her office, that they keep saying that she has access to, that next lie that this guy keeps telling. It's annoying and it's frustrating. And she shouldn't have to keep posting these videos about that. Someone should be doing something. Because it leaves then Mike Johnson to say things like, she's just posting videos acting like she can't really do any work. It's tiring. That's all. I'm just, it's tiring. And that's why new leadership needs to come in. That's why pressure campaigns work, because these politicians apparently won't do just enough to stay in power and just little enough to not do anything about actually changing things. Thomas Massey. Thank you, guys. Thomas Massey, they're trying to get rid of now. Well, not now. He's just making it a little bit more explicit. Okay. I told you guys I have one last story. I hadn't heard much about this. I forget how it came across my attention, but it has to do with Lara Trump. I believe this is Eric Trump's wife. She also had those positions in the RNC, that Nepo position that she got. She has some talk show, either on Newsmax or OAN. I'm not sure which one of them. Maybe even Fox News. She got on one of those. But she decided to chime in, or I guess answer questions about all the anger and frustration that Republicans have. I'm sorry, MAGA Republicans have with Bad Bunny performing at the halftime of the Super Bowl because he speaks Spanish. This is her talking about it, I guess, on one of her podcast shows.
Who would you like to see perform at the TPUSA Super Bowl halftime show? First of all, let me give a shout out to Turning Point. When Bad Bunny was announced as the Super Bowl halftime performer, which, by the way, I know a lot of owners of a lot of NFL teams. A lot of people are upset about that. I don't know what the heck the NFL was thinking with this one, but I can tell you there are a lot of people who are not happy about it. And so Turning Point was like, you know what? We're going to do our own thing. We'll have our own halftime show. We don't need Bad Bunny or any of these people. Who would I like to see perform? Tom McDonald, 100%. I think I talked about him last time. We did a Q&A episode, I believe, last week. I said I'd like to perform on stage with him, do a little karaoke sesh. Absolutely. I think he's awesome. I would love to see that happen. I feel like we have a lot of great people who we could add into this. I haven't really thought about it. It's first I've thought about it with this question. But you know what? You can throw Lara Trump in there. Yeah, that's right. Imagine how upset people on the left would be if something like that happened. It sort of makes me want to offer myself up. I have not been asked, but I'm going to offer it right now. So let's see what happens. The great news is we don't need the NFL. We don't need any of these woke losers to perform. We can have our own performance. So shout out to Turning Point for coming up with their own halftime show. I love it.
She made a little mistake there. First of all, Turning Point USA is going to have some kind of halftime show. Fine, they can have whatever halftime show they want since they, don't want to watch the regular one. I don't care about that. Problem that Lara Trump made was offering herself up to be one of the performers at the Turning Point USA halftime show. Because, just for shits and gigs, people started remembering. Maybe that was the problem. People began to remember Lara Trump and her singing career that she tried to launch.
And I won't back down. When I know what's right, I got just one life. In a world that keeps on pushing me around, gonna stand my
Bring on Bad Bunny, please. Matter of fact, that's just a recap of what is that she always used to do and performing at these hoity-toity elitist events. All those populists in that room, all those multimillionaires, and they're listening to her scream into the microphone. So some folks began to make fun of her, because when you set yourself up for something like that and you're a hateful person, that tends to be what happens on the internet.
Without your bravery, we're all out of luck. No, this can't be denied. You gotta be special. It takes a lot to put you last and everybody first.
So swiftly as you could imagine, she was made fun of. And because she cares about what everyone thinks, despite how hateful she is to so many people, she ended up responding to that too, after putting herself out there to be the one to perform at the TPUSA halftime show that the left would go crazy over. This is what I'm talking about. Just make fun of them. Don't take them seriously. And then she responds with this.
I heard that there are a lot of people out there on the left who are melting down and very upset about the possibility that I might be performing at the halftime show for the Super Bowl for Turning Point USA. While my joking offer, which was clearly a comical and joking offer, still stands to perform. I've not been asked in any formal way to perform for the Turning Point halftime show for the Super Bowl, but everybody out there continue getting upset about it and freaking out about it. I heard that there are a lot of people out.
That doesn't make any sense. She goes, it was obviously a joking submission of me potentially performing at the halftime show at TPUSA. But it still stands. Maybe I can still, I haven't had an official invite yet, but I will do it. Would you do it, or are you just joking? It can't be both, man. You can't say that you both were joking about it at the time just to probably diffuse the situation of people going, oh my God, please no, to then you also really actually wanting to perform at TPUSA's halftime performance to replace Bad Bunny. But things got worse because someone noticed this. I think it was Ron Filipkowski in that video. As she was talking about how it was all a joke and all these lefties are flipping out, he said, "What the hell is this?" I'm not sure if you guys noticed it. For some reason, I didn't notice it either. And it's not just the eyebrows; it's the eyelids. And I don't know anything about cosmetic surgeries. I don't know anything about what people do with eyelids and noses and ears and cheeks and foreheads and bridges and lips and chins. I don't know any of this stuff. So I looked it up. In fact, I had to even look up how to pronounce it. Blepharoplasty. Blepharoplasty. It's a surgical procedure that involves removing excess skin, fat, and muscle from the upper and or lower eyelids. And apparently, when you do too much of it, which, as people have talked about, Mar-a-Lago face, how it invades anyone that's surrounding Donald Trump and this MAGA fascist party, they start looking like odd semi-humans and walk around and act like they're above and better than everyone else. So you know what I did? I did some research. This is how I think. I'm sorry if you guys don't go out of my main mindset. I know that it's the beginning of the hour and you guys are going over 2 hours, but I'm almost done. I want you guys to learn also what I learned, because you know what? There's still hope for Lara Trump. Not for the singing, but potentially for the
I've been
eyelids.
an oculoplastic surgeon specializing in cosmetic eyelid surgery for over 30 years. I often see patients who are unhappy with their previous upper eyelid blepharoplasty results. A common issue is that they still look tired due to hollowness in the upper eyelids caused by aggressive removal of fat. Instead of looking more youthful, they have a sunken appearance that can make them look older. Taking a step back, I can say that in my practice, during my initial consultation, I look at your bone structure as well as the adjacent fat, which informs my surgical planning. Factors such as genetics and age can affect the bone structure, making some people be at greater risk for postoperative hollow appearance. I routinely show my patient these areas and also point out the natural asymmetry in bone structure that's very common. When I see a patient who has had surgery elsewhere and they have upper eyelid hollowing, my go-to solution is to place hyaluronic acid filler at the bone level to improve the appearance. Fat grafting is also an option. However, fat grafting is subject to significant loss of the grafted fat, lumpiness, as well as scar tissue. Oftentimes, a second surgery is needed to address these problems and to replace fat that did not survive after the first surgery.
That sucks. So to try and, I guess, open your eyes up more or lose the fattiness of your eyelids, sometimes people take out too much. Then they got to reinsert more fat or some other kind of substance. It's like a recycling process, except it's very unnatural. But at least the good news is she can always go to Dr. Prasad for a procedure to get things back straight, since now people have noticed that about her eyelids too. And for anybody, by the way, if this seems mean, because, you know, a lot of people get procedures. Doesn't matter their political affiliation. Doesn't matter if they're, Nepo people like Lara Trump is. It doesn't matter. In general, we're always chasing these beauty standards, these unfair and all these beauty standards that many of these lefties, these libs like to say is manufactured by men in this world. The problem is when you're an asshole and when you say things like this, you open yourself up to be the person who gets made fun of, even though you're the person who is in this position of power and actually advocates, killing people that you just don't like.
I don't know what you tell the people that live at the southern border. I guess they better arm up and get guns and be ready. And maybe they're going to have to start taking matters into their own hands. It should never happen. These people should never make this dangerous journey here.
She's not a good person. So stop putting yourself out there if you don't want to get ridiculed. If you want to keep talking about someone shouldn't have the right to perform at a halftime show, and then you keep putting yourself out there and then your eyelids. How about you don't advocate that people shoot people that are coming across and making that treacherous journey? They're obviously refugees from a worse situation. Maybe not be that person, Lara. That's all. Thanks, you guys. I started feeling bad about making fun of her. I'm sorry. I started feeling bad about making fun of her. And I was like, you know what? I have to remember who it is that we're talking about here. And as we go, I'm going to show you guys one more instance of who Lara Trump is and the types of things she wants you guys to do while she sits in her ivory tower and talks about singing badly.
These are like acts of terrorism to me. Then we have, death threats this guy is facing. What has he done that's so bad? What has he done that deserves that level of rage and hatred? Can you tell me?
Absolutely nothing, Sean. And that's the crazy part. This is why the approval rating of the Democrat Party is somewhere around 31%. It's why it's no longer cool to be a Democrat. Everybody's come over to the Republican Party because this stuff is just pure lunacy. And I'll tell you one thing. Once upon a time, it used to be that there was a bipartisan goal of rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse, that everybody could agree on that until, of course, the person who was actually rooting out the fraud, waste, and abuse was Donald Trump. And alongside of him, Elon Musk. And now if you notice, they're employing the exact same, attack him and take him down at all costs and any cost tactics that they used against Donald Trump. They're attacking his character. They've called him a Nazi. They're going after his businesses. They're vandalizing property. They're doing any and everything they can to this man. And it's really horrific to see, because what is Elon getting for all of this? Much like Donald Trump, He didn't need this job, Sean. He's not taking a salary. It's actually laughable every time you hear these people on the left say Elon's enriching himself and his friends. You just talked about it. This guy is losing money because of what he's doing, but he understands the importance of this moment. We cannot continue in perpetuity spending the way we are. We cannot survive as a country. So people ought to be kissing the feet of Elon Musk and Donald Trump for being the two people to actually do this.
Elitists, you plebes, all you regular commoners out there should be kissing the feet of Donald Trump and Elon Musk for taking your money, misusing it, and pocketing it themselves. Kiss their feet. Laura Trump. Okay, guys. See you later. Enjoy. Go over to TDR, tell them I say hey. If you guys like what we're doing, go ahead and like, subscribe, share this stream. Come back. These videos will be up later. Go like those as well, too. But share those as well, too. You know, that'd be nice. And make sure you guys know we do this every day at noon. I'll be back on tomorrow. I don't think things are going to continue to go wrong, but I'm glad you guys were here. Good to see your pretty faces. I missed you. We'll see you tomorrow, you guys. All right.